Hello, and welcome to 97.9 Unity Radio, the best sports talk show in all of Massachusetts, in all of Vermont, in all of New Hampshire, in all of Delaware, Rhode Island, and basically all of New England. With me, as always, the voice of reason himself, Frank Cristiano.
Are these facts?
No,
They're not facts that you're throwing out there.
but nobody knows.
Nobody knows, so you're just
Doesn't
putting it
matter.
out there. Good
Nobody knows. Nobody
Good for you. Way to create credibility.
And a very special guest, my coach from college, who also played at UConn, a UConn alum, Mr. Coach Lyndon Johnson, who is also in cybersecurity now and coaching high school football. Coach, thank you for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, we're excited to have you as well. The first thing I kind of wanted to get your opinion on, because you guys were at the tail end of everything, and then COVID happened, all went to shit, and now between NIL and the transfer portal, it's really becoming a mess. And I saw an article on ESPN.com where the schools are really trying to take back control, and they're making the contracts kind of one-sided. Basically, if you don't complete your deal, if you say you're going to transfer early, if you don't perform up to standard, you could have your money taken away.
Yeah.
And also the era of kids leaving 4 years in a row, transferring 4 years in a row, and then freshmen not getting nearly enough opportunities for scholarships. So what are your thoughts on how it's all played out and how the NCAA's handled it?
Steve, to say that the big reason I'm sitting here in the cybersecurity world, not coaching college football anymore, is because of the NIL and the transfer portal. I've been totally against it from the start.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, like you said, it's deteriorated the game a little bit, and it was just a matter of time before the universities tried to do something to regain control of the situation, because it was turning into the wild, wild west. So it doesn't surprise me that they're trying to do this. I'm surprised it didn't happen earlier, to be honest. But I don't know if they're going to be able to. It's gotten so out of control. I don't know how do you backtrack it, but I could see what they're trying to do now with some of these new contracts and holding kids accountable. But I don't know how much weight it's really going to carry if someone really wants to fight it.
Well, how much thought do you think that the NCAA put into this in the beginning? I mean, it looks like there was nothing laid out as far as what other things could happen if players start accumulating tons of money and start transferring year after year after year to, you're paying for a hired gun.
Yeah.
And what happens with hired guns is a lot of times they fade away. And so I don't know how that's great stability for the NCAA as well. It develops no cohesiveness, no tightness in teams. Every year it's a brand new slate for coaches. I mean, I don't know how coaches would. That's why I understand your point completely about being out of the game. I don't know how they manage it and be able to put something together year after year after year. You're almost selling yourself as a coach to try to beg the best to come in, and for at what price, and how do you accumulate that price? So I think it's a losing battle all the way around. I think they're trying to reclaim a little bit of it now, and they should. I'm for athletes getting a piece of the pie. How much of that pie? Well, that's the determining factor, and how many people get the pie. I mean, I think the entire program should benefit top to bottom. It's hard to have 2-3 guys that are getting paid and the other, 85 to 90 are getting nothing.
Yeah.
So I think that they need restructuring. Will that happen? I don't know. The NCAA is probably the weakest governing body that there is in any sports organization that we've ever seen. They carry little, if no clout anymore. And so I think that, it's major. I know, Steve, you're always like, well, the Senate should step in and
Congress.
Congress. The Senat's going to make the vote, not House Representatives. Senate should step in and declare some kind of a structured law towards the NCAA and what they're doing with that. But that's the least of this country's problems, to have to put Congress at work to determine how athletes are paid and how schools can benefit or not benefit. So I think they need an internal cleansing of the NCAA and try to get on a straight and narrow path with all the conferences and even with the independents and give them some sort of structured rule to go by that everyone can agree on.
Yeah, but Coach, my thing is we're looking at the money that's being spent now, and this is going to be the first year that television revenue is going to be part of the deal, including NIL money. And all I keep thinking is 5 years down the road, they're going to have $70 million to throw around. That's like the NFL salary cap was when it
Yeah.
first started in 1994. And how can they effectively manage that with especially the conference television budgets continue to skyrocket? It's all about the almighty dollar. And even this past season, we saw the least amount of juniors enter the NFL draft. So that to me is just telling that it's going in the wrong direction. And is it going to get to a point where enough is enough, or do you think it's just going to continue to grow and grow and grow and just be another pro sport?
Well, I mean, a couple of things you guys kind of hit the nail on the head. Number one, the NCAA put no thought into this when it first started. I mean, I can remember back 15 years ago at the coaches convention when we first started talking about this stuff, and everyone thought it was a great idea and all this and you know, it's just you're playing with Pandora's box because, like you said, when do you put a cap on it? You know, because you let it go out of control, and the NCAA just wanted no hands on and no, hey, yeah, you guys do what you want to do, and we're just going to sit back and let it play out. Kind of like how they handled COVID. When
Yeah,
COVID happened,
yeah,
instead of letting conferences do whatever they wanted, if they were true leadership, they would have come out and said, hey, we're the NCAA. You are a part of the NCAA. Here's what we're going to do. We're either playing or we're not playing. End of story. Instead, they said, you know what? Every conference can do whatever you want to do, and then we'll be fine. That's a coward's way out. That's not leadership.
not
So
at all.
to expect them to handle this any other way is very naive. Now, where's it going? My biggest problem with this whole thing is we're talking about kids. I get
Exactly.
it. I get it. Everybody should get a piece of the pie and all this thing. I get all that stuff. But we're talking about 16, 17, 18-year-old kids getting millions of dollars and with no guidance on what to do with that kind of money. And the problem is, sooner or later, it's going to happen. Someone's going to make a very bad decision. And we're going to all sit back and say that this is a bad kid. It's not a bad kid. We set him up. You can't give a
Set 'em up for
17-year-old
failure.
kid millions of dollars and think they're going to act like an adult.
Yeah.
I mean,
Is it hard to, coach? Is it hard to coach a kid who's making more money than you?
oh, that's the biggest thing. What are you going to say to that kid? You know
I
what I'm saying?
couldn't
When things start going bad, who do you think they're going to get rid of, the kid or the coach?
That's right.
And
That's right.
the kids know this. You know,
Yeah.
when I was my last year of coaching, I had a recruit come to my office, and you know, during the position meeting, you know, he put his feet up on my desk and he said, "Hey, coach, I love what you're doing, X's and O's with. I can tell you know what you're doing, all that, but I need to know what the number is." And I said, "Excuse me?"
Wow.
He's like, "So and so is offered me this, and so and so's offered me that." I said, "Oh, give me 1 second." I went down the hall to the head coach, and I told him, I said, "If you want this young man on our team, you need to accept my resignation right now. Because as long as I'm coaching, that kid will never play."
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
told the kid that. I said, "Listen, if you want to come here, you'll never play for me because of what you just said." And we didn't take him. We ended up sending him home. It was the middle of the visit, but that's what you're dealing with. And these are kids, and we're talking about them like they're businessmen,
Yeah.
like they're
Yeah.
adults. They're not adults. Some of them haven't had their whole first girlfriend yet, but they got their first million.
That's true. That's true.
Wow.
You know,
Um,
and we all think this is a great thing. Here's the you first start putting away whatever you get is in your NIL deal. we take a percentage of that, give it to you now, so you have some money, let's say 50,000, just as a number, and you put the rest in some type of growth account.
Right.
And then
That's what you suggested.
when you
Yeah.
exhaust your eligibility, you can get it. I can
Yeah.
live with that. But now to give a 17-year-old kid $3 million and think that that's okay as a parent, I wouldn't want someone to give my 16-year-old son. I'm 57. You give me $1 million right now, I'm going to act a fool for a while, and I'm 57.
Right. Right.
And we're talking about kids. I'm like, come on, guys. But
Yeah.
Steve, to be honest, I don't know what the answer is. I don't have the answer. I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I do know this, that it's out of control, and it's affecting what you're seeing, the product that's on the field. When I watch college games now, the product that's out there, it's gone away from where the schemes and coaching and all those different things. All you see is a bunch of athletes running around the field right now. I just see bad football when I watch games. I see bad technique. I see bad angles to the ball. I see bad tackling, bad schematics. Because coaches don't have time to do that stuff anymore because you're too busy trying to raise money, do all this
Oh no.
and you're trying to re-recruit the kids you've already recruited.
That's the worst part. You got to recruit your own kids to
Yeah.
keep them in your program,
Yeah,
or
you're not
else
worried about teaching them how to play
really.
quarters and cover two and all that stuff. That's the least of your concerns.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I
Horrible.
I
Now
had
wait a minute. Before the question, I'm 57. Okay, so when were you born?
68.
68. Okay,
Yeah.
so I got it. All right. I got you. Okay. I thought I made a close birthday or someone in there.
just because he looks younger
He
than
looks
you.
younger than me. I was 57. I mean, man, I look like I'm 80. You look like you're 57.
I wanted to ask because I had a couple coaches or not high school coaches call me
Wow.
this past weekend, and they're struggling to have their freshmen or who are going to be incoming college
Oh, yeah.
freshmen for the class of 2026 or the class of 2025 get recruited and get looks. What advice or guidance would you give to them as far as the
Yeah.
recruiting process? Because teams are taking less freshmen, they are going with more transfers.
Oh, yeah.
And is it going to be where you're going to have to start lower and possibly work your way up? Is that going to be the only way you're going to get to that level if you're not growing?
Yeah, those are the ones that are kind of getting lost in the sauce the most. That I feel the worst for are the high school kids, because unless you are the elite guys, you're fighting an uphill battle. Because, like you just said, I know my last couple years as a college coach, we were taking the transfers way before we thought about the high school kids. Because part of
Right.
the deal is, as a coach, you got to win now.
Yeah.
The
Big time.
days of being hired or getting a job and saying, "Hey, I'm going to come in and I'm going to develop a program. I'm going to create a culture." Well, that takes 3 to 4 years to do that. Steve, you've been through it. It doesn't happen overnight. Football's not like other sports where you go in and you get one or two great ones and that's all you need. It takes 3 or 4 years if you want to develop culture. Well, nowadays coaches are getting 2 years and you're getting fired if you're not winning. So, as a coach, why would I take a high school kid unless he is the elite and they can come in and help me right now over a transfer who's already been seasoned, who's been in the fire a little bit? It doesn't make sense, unfortunately.
Not at
So
all.
those high school kids, man, I remember getting so many calls from parents, moms crying on the phone, begging us to take their kids, and we just had no room left.
Yeah.
We took 50 transfers, and we took 5 high school kids. And who was it? Rick Pitino just came out and said it with St.
Yes.
John's.
Yes.
Why would you replace a 4-year starter with a freshman kid now? In the old days, yeah, definitely, because you're going to teach them and you're going to grow them, you're going to develop them. Well, we don't have time to do that. Someone else has got to do that, and then we'll come and scoop them up later.
So does JUCO come into play again?
I think it does, especially now with the new eligibility rules where it doesn't count.
Right.
I think it definitely has to. Or a division, the guys that are going to should make out are the D3s and the D2s, because now you're going to get some kids that were probably more Division I caliber but they just had no room. So they can go to a D2 or D3, get some good film, and unfortunately, you're basically a farm program. You
Right.
know, if you're the minor leagues, and then the big dogs will come in and scoop them up later on. But it's just terrible for those high school kids. I just don't. Once again, for me, when we say these things are better for the game, I don't see how that's better for the game. Part of college football, the experience was to go in and learn and develop and get bigger, faster, stronger, get this next level coaching that's supposedly going on. But now we're destroying all that. We're throwing that away and saying, oh, well, forget about that. We're going to win right now. We're going to go out and get some hired guns, and we're going to win right now. So once again, the quality of the game is coming down because those kids aren't being coached the same way. They aren't being developed the same way. And
Yeah.
I told someone a story once when I was about 5 or 6 years ago, looking for different jobs and all those different things. I had coaches interviewing me, and the first question they asked were, "How many followers did I have on Twitter?"
That was a question they
That
asked
was
with
during an
followers
interview.
on
So,
Twitter.
oh yeah, and I was like, "Wait a minute, you're worried about that? What about the 100 kids on your campus that need to be coached, that need to be mentored? What about those guys?
That
You're
was going to be my
worried
next
about my Twitter
question.
followers."
That was going to be my next question to you. Is that does that change a head coach's strategy and who he's taking to build a staff?
Oh, of
So
course
you're
it
basically
does.
you're going to take the
The guy with
recruiter
the
now
Yeah.
over the actual better coach.
Oh yeah. That's what it's about. Because you're going to say, well, I'm going to teach them to coach it the way I want to coach, but I need guys that can recruit. And I get that. Of course, recruiting has always been a huge part of college football coaching. You got to recruit, and there's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, the biggest part when I got into it was developing relationships with these young men, mentoring these young men. That's why I wanted to be a coach. And that's what I loved about being a coach. Guys like Steve, when I see how guys have become, how they're living their lives now, I feel that I'm a small part of that. And Steve, my guys, Lutris and all those dudes that I coached.
of
When
course.
I see those Dan Orlovsky, when I see those guys going on and doing great things, I'm part of that. I had
Well, you
something
were
to
the
do with that.
recruiting coordinator, right, during that time for a
Yeah, when
while?
all those guys came through, and Dan
Yeah.
Orlowski, I recruited Dan personally
Yeah.
since he was a freshman and
Yeah.
developed a relationship with him. But those days are over. So there's
Yeah.
no mentoring going on. There's no developing going on. It's just like you said. There's guys coming in and out, and as coaches, we barely know these kids because a lot of them aren't on your campus more than 8 months.
Right.
Whether
Yeah.
they're graduating or they're transferring, going somewhere else, or you're pushing them out so you can get someone better.
Yeah. The other question I wanted to ask was about Coach Belichick. Were you at all surprised that he ended up taking the North Carolina job?
At first, I was because
Yeah.
I just never pictured him as a college guy.
Yeah.
But with the way after it happened, and the more I thought about it, with the trajectory that college football is on, it's not surprising. I think you might have said it a little bit earlier at the beginning of the show, Steve. It's becoming just like the NFL. I mean, first of all,
It is.
they're paying him not much, just as much as he would get as he was an NFL coach. He's getting 10 million. I mean, how
Easily.
much more are you going to get in the NFL? So, what's really the difference? And I guarantee the operating budget that he has in North Carolina ain't that far behind what he had in New England.
No.
You
No.
know,
I,
And they,
I think his son's going to do the day to day operations. He's just going to hang out with his hot girlfriend because you saw that picture of him on the beach over there with his 2 feet in the air, having her flying, her on her stomach. I mean, we've got it better than him right now.
um, and then we had the NCAA tournament reveal yesterday for the men's and women's bracket. Were there any surprises necessarily that stuck out to you with the men as far as like the number one seeds and how you saw it shaking out? And then with the women, I didn't even know this. They only play in two different locations once they get past the Sweet 16.
yeah.
It's in Birmingham and Spokane. I had no idea that was happening. But what did you think of the committee, and do you think they got it right with some of the
Um,
selection brackets?
The ones didn't surprise me. The one seeds, I wasn't surprised. We're already on talking about them, but North Carolina surprised me, to be honest.
Oh, you think?
Oh,
That's probably the one that jumps out at me. I mean, they played well against Duke in the semis, but I couldn't believe it. I think I just read something. This maybe it was earlier this afternoon that they were 2-10 versus teams in the field.
they were.
Yeah.
They were.
Yeah. Well, when you're
So
president of the school
Is
sits
the
on the
chair of the
committee,
committee.
chair of the committee, you got some pull there, right? You got some pull.
yeah, I guess that's why you pushed to get someone on the committee. I guess it worked out for him, but
That's
that
right.
one kind of blew me away.
And that's why the West Virginia coach was ticked off.
Yeah, they should have been. West Virginia should
and
have
rightfully
been.
so. I mean, can you blame the guy? You can't blame the guy.
Yeah, you gotta. I don't know, and again, it's a committee doing the picking. So how do you? Once it's done, it's done.
Yeah,
So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
No, there's nothing they can do to change it.
right.
Now,
Do they still have the NIT?
Yes,
They're
they have
still-
the
yeah,
NIT,
it's
and
still
there's
there.
another one.
Really?
Yes,
yeah, there is.
there's
I don't remember the
called
name of it, but there's a third tournament.
Yeah, it's called the College Basketball Invitational, but it's not associated with the NCAA.
It's the SOL. It's a shit out of luck.
It pretty much is.
Yeah, great. They'll be thrilled to go to that one.
Yeah,
I don't know
exactly.
how many teams are going to be
That's a
playing.
big. That's a big
bowl
recruiting
game.
tool right there.
Yeah, Coach, I mean, in the beginning, it was pride. Just you're striving as a young program to get to a bowl game. You got to get to a bowl game. Right? Then after a while, it's like there's 75 bowl games, and then people are like, well, I don't know how much validity these games have after a while, and those bowl games lose. That's why I'm glad they're going to a playoff system. How do they make it work to be the best? I don't know. I would love to see it more like what the lower divisions do, 1AA and down, subdivision down all the way to 3, where they're picking regions and they're picking 4 to 6 teams and in each region, and they're playing against each other in a maybe a structured 6-week tournament. Longer. It'll go a month and a half easy. I think that would be the ultimate goal. I think of the NCAA. Why not? There's more money in it.
Yeah. Well, the bowl games are going to go by the wayside anyway. Once again, the portal, the NIL stuff is killing that as well. Because when these teams get to the bowl games, as a fan, you don't even know who these teams are.
Right.
No.
Half the team doesn't go to the bowl game anymore.
Right. So everybody was out.
The kids all opt out.
So that's what people don't understand. These families, or not families, just fans, you're spending all this money, travel, hotels, tickets, all these meals to go to these bowl games, and you don't even know who's playing.
Right, the walk-on guy is taking snaps.
Yeah, who's this Jimmy Joe? I haven't seen this kid all year long, and but once again, it's all filtering down from the portal, the NIL stuff, because not only are kids just not playing, they're leaving. They're gone from the roster by the time the team gets to a bowl game. They're on someone else's roster.
That's got to be the NCAA institutes rules for that too. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Of course, there's. If the NCAA has had any type of true leadership qualities, none of this stuff would be happening, because someone should have stood up and said, "Hey, guys, this is wrong. Unlimited transfers, this is wrong."
Yeah.
When I talk to young kids and coach at the high school level now again, they always ask me these stuff. I guess, guys, when I was in college, the thought of transferring never even crossed my mind. And I know when I think back, I think in my college, I probably know maybe 4 guys that transferred when I played. It just if things didn't go your way, you worked harder.
That was it.
That
was it. You worked harder to develop. I know that you guys had a couple kids from BU when they lost their program.
Yeah,
that came in.
Yeah,
but otherwise, it was very, very rare.
No,
to see a guy actually sit out.
My last, like I said, a couple of years ago, when I was coaching, and I had a young man come in. He told me he wanted to transfer because of where he was on the depth chart, and I said, "Hey, let me ask you a question. How about the guy who's number 1? I have to kick him out of the building at night because he's watching so much film. How come I never see you watching film? Like, how come when I go to the weight room, I never see you doing extra? As soon as the weight session's over, you're one of the first ones out of the door. You say you want to climb the depth chart, but you're doing nothing to try to get ahead of the guy in front of you. If you're number 3 and number 2 is putting in 3 hours of extra work a week, then you probably should put in 5.
Yeah.
Those days are over, and it's scary what we're teaching these kids.
Yeah.
As far as work ethic and how to handle obstacles in life.
Also, in transferring, I would think that the whole grass is greener on the other side. You don't know what you're transferring into.
Exactly. You have no idea. You're
That
going
could be the worst
blind.
situation for you. You may be two on the depth chart where you are, and you think you're struggling to get to the one. I'm going somewhere else, and all of a sudden you land on another school, but now you're three.
Yeah,
You know,
because
you're,
you're probably not the only kid they brought in. You know what I
right,
mean?
right.
I
Yeah,
told
completely.
when I left, coach, one of my players asked me, he said, "Coach, why are you leaving? Why are you quitting? Why can't you just go to another school and I'll come there and play for you?" And I told him the reason why I'm getting out of coaching is because I love you, because I care too much about you. Because if I stay, I'm part of the problem. And in about 15 years, when you leave your wife, I'm part of the reason, because
Yeah,
I'm telling you that it's okay if I'm part of the system just to get up and leave when things get hard. If things aren't going your way, just quit and go somewhere else. That's what we're telling these kids, that it's okay. So when they have trouble in their marriages, when they have trouble at work, and they get in trouble and they don't know how to handle, it's our fault. We told
yeah,
them that it's okay just to quit and go somewhere else. If
yeah.
she's not doesn't work out, just quit, just divorce her
Yeah,
and go get
take the
another
easy
one.
way out.
And
100%.
people sometimes when I say that, some people kind of laugh and they look at me and I'm like, you don't understand how important the sports are to some of these kids. I know for me growing up, football saved my life. If I didn't have football, I wouldn't be sitting here with you guys tonight. I would be long gone. I would have never gotten out of my hometown.
Yeah.
And sports are such a big part of all these young people's lives. And if you don't think the way these guys and kids and young women too relate to their coaches, the relationships they have with these coaches, if you don't think that has a big part to the kind of adults that they're becoming, you're fooling yourselves. And we're
Yeah,
not taking that into
100%.
consideration with all these new rules.
100%. You spend more time with your coaches than you do with your family.
Listen,
Yeah.
I coached at high school and college level for 24 years. And bottom line, the pride that I take into is the guys that come back to me who were kids and are now men and
Oh
come
yeah.
and say, "Hey, coach," and I'm like, "Okay, you can change it now. It's Frank, but you can let's it's good." And they come in, and they tell me the stories of their life, and they tell me how and that's and they took something away from what I hopefully gave to them and what the sport gave
Oh,
to
no
them, and
doubt.
they incorporate in their lives. Yeah,
I tell you, one of the best days of my life in coaching, when I was at the University of Maryland, my second year, we actually played UConn. They
Yeah,
came they came down and played us, and they beat us. And after, obviously I'm pissed off and whatever, so I pouted in my office for a while after the game. So I didn't come out for like maybe an hour and a half after the game was over.
that's how
And
I used to be.
our wife came up to me and she said, "You know what, Lyndon? After all these years we've been together and you've been doing this, I finally realized that you're doing it the right way." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she goes, "Look over there." And across the parking lot, there was about 15 to 20 former UConn players waiting in the parking lot
Waiting for you.
for me to come out so
Yes.
they can tell me about their first job that they just got. Coach, I just got engaged. Coach, I'm doing this. I just had my first child, whatever it was. And I just wanted to share that with you.
Yeah.
That was one of the greatest moments in my coaching career. It wasn't when I beat Notre Dame, when I beat Michigan, all these things. It was that day in that parking lot when I saw those guys. I'm like, that's how I know I'm doing it the right way. Has nothing to
absolutely,
do with the wins and losses. It was all about
absolutely.
those young men and how they saw me. They just wanted to share what was going on in their lives with me because of the relationship that we had. That doesn't happen anymore, and it won't happen
No.
anymore. That's
Well,
when the
you
game is
see how
most.
much it resonates, and you see the difference that you make in these young men's lives in such a critical time. Like you said, you're transforming them from kids to adults,
Oh yeah.
and that's such a pivotal period. And if it's not done the right way, like we're seeing now, you're going to get a mess.
Well,
And
there's
like
no
you said,
time to develop the relationship. The kids are only there for a couple months, then they're
yeah,
gone.
they're
They're
gone.
gone somewhere else, you know. And like you said earlier, if you got good players that are young, you got to almost
You got to
you got
re-recruit them.
you got to re-recruit them. And I tell you what, this is terrible to say, but the last school I was at, I had a freshman linebacker who was a stud, had a great year, and we were sitting in the staff room, and you get the all conference ballots, and the head coach starts to write his name, and I said, "Whoa, what are you, crazy?" We can't put that kid on all conference.
Because someone will want him.
And he'll be gone.
You thought
He'll be
that?
gone.
That's amazing.
I said
That's amazing.
I said, Coach, he will be gone in 2 weeks if we put him on there. Well, then then I started thinking about it, and I'm like, God damn it, the kid earned it. We got to put him on. So we put him on, and Steve, 3 weeks later, he was gone.
Oh, Jesus.
3 weeks later, you were
3
out the
weeks.
door.
Yeah.
Because all these bigger schools, they have people just trolling the all conference teams. And if you're a freshman or a sophomore and you make all conference at a FCS school, you're gone. They're going to come and recruit the heck out of you, and they're going to make such an offer that you can't say no. Not a 17, 18-year-old kid.
Every school you're on, like, God, this school has nothing every year. There's no one here to look at.
Yeah, if you're smart,
but they're 11-1,
and they got nobody on the whole conference.
That's genius. That's genius.
Yeah, you got to protect them. You got to protect your kids in more ways than one.
Coach, I wanted to ask you because, the NFL draft is coming up and there's been so many debates going around about the draft order and who should be picked where. And as far as if you're looking at the top couple players, and especially the quarterbacks, when you look at Shedeur Sanders, when you look at Cam Edwards, when you look at Travis Hunter, do you see Travis Hunter as a generational prospect, like a can't miss type of guy? Do you think Shedeur can get it done, or do you think Cam will be the better long-term quarterback prospect in the NFL?
You know what? That's a tough one. See, I mean, Travis right now is so dynamic. We haven't seen something like that in a long time, probably, since Dion, probably.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm really concerned about his size, and because the NFL is a whole different game.
It is.
It's a grown man thing, and so I don't know if he's going to be the as dynamic on both sides as he was in the college. Because it's a different caliber of athletes.
He never came off the field.
Yeah, and in the NFL, everyone is as good as he is. But I still think he is one of the top picks in the draft. The quarterback situation, I think they're both going to be very good NFL quarterbacks. I think Cam might be there a little bit ahead of Shedeur. But I think in the long run, I think Shedeur might end up being the better down the road. Just
down the road,
his skill set is very high. Now, does it translate to the NFL right now? I don't know. I don't know if I've seen that yet. But I just think he has more natural skill set than Cam in the long run. But I think right now Cam is a little more polished at this point. But down the road, I see Shedeur maybe being a little bit better.
And I know that you're in the Maryland area. Frank is, as I say, he's back on the reservation. He's a Redskins fan. He refuses to say the other name.
Now, wait a minute. I see the Lions gear. Now, here's the thing.
Well, because Coach was with the Lions for a little while.
This is from Darren Orlowski gave me this.
Thunder Dan gave it to you.
All right, okay, that's not bad. Because what I'm saying is, I'm a lifelong Redskins fan. I can't say Commanders. I'm not going to say Commanders. To me, it's the Washington Redskins. The thing was, though, 3 years ago, I left the reservation. I had enough because I know he always laughs when I say that.
Because you hated Daniel Snyder.
I hated Daniel Snyder to the point where I could have gone postal. I could have gone postal, but I held back. But I said, you know what? I'm going to take a break from the team for a little while because I'm going to go mad. And then I was watching Hard Knocks on HBO, and here comes Dan Campbell. And man, I like that guy. I like what he's trying to sell. Don't know if it's going to be successful, but I like it. And here you go in 3 years, boom, they're in the NFC Finals.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at it like right now, I'm back with Washington because that is my team. I jumped off just a little while, but once they changed ownership, then I was back on. Now we're because that guy was poison to that franchise for 25 years. And you can see what, we always talk about what athletes you have to have. You can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit. I've always heard that, you can't, but bottom line, if you don't have direction and you don't have a goal, a focus, and everyone's there together, you can't accomplish anything with any team. I mean,
No, of
look
course
at
not.
the Cowboys. What a mess they are with
I was
Jerry
just gonna
Jones.
say. I was gonna say. Look
Yeah,
what's
being the
going on
owner
down
and the
there.
GM, that doesn't work. The owner and the GM, come on.
Yeah. I mean,
But so I'm back on. You're in the Maryland area. God bless you. I love it. I got to get back down.
Well, no,
to
I
a
wanted
game.
to say because they've been so active in free agency,
Oh, no,
they've
yeah.
made a ton of moves.
Listen,
and they bought a plot of land as well, right? For a stadium?
It's coming back downtown. It'll
Yeah.
be back downtown. Without a doubt, it'll be back downtown. That will be the heartbeat of the city again. And I think that's a good thing. It has to happen. FedEx Field, or whatever they call it now, is a box. It's a box with a 3-mile parking lot, and it's garbage. And that's again from the brilliant visionary Dan Snyder. So now you can see. Look at what they've done this year in trades to upgrade their team and to bolster positions they know they need a little bit of help in. You pick up a Debo Samuel and a Laramie Tunsil,
yeah,
just like that.
amazing.
And now that those are the 2 or 3 missing pieces. Granted, they lost a couple guys. You're going to in free agency, you have to, but they're filling the pieces they need to get to the next level. They sort of saw where there's a little bit of shortcoming. I think, and again, that's from smart-minded people, from ownership on down to the GM, on down to the staff. They're finally making the right decisions and they're pulling the right triggers. I think it's great.
No, it's
Yeah,
very
Josh
exciting.
Johnson
It's an
was.
exciting time down here. I mean, obviously, Jaden is exceptional. Had an exceptional year, and hopefully that can continue. They can
Yeah.
continue to protect him. But now they're getting him some more weapons, so he can even be more effective. But everyone down here, unfortunately for me, I'm a Jet fan. I enjoy the pain.
Oh my God, what happened?
He's from Connecticut. That's
Oh,
what
all right. Well, listen, I used to root for the Jets when I was young. I watched them because on TV wise, we get to see that. But I'm like so my in high school, I had the Joe Klecko jersey. I was a Joe Klecko fan.
Right.
I love that whole that New York Sack Exchange with Abdul Salam and Marty Lyons and
Listen,
guys.
I always tell everyone down here, I said, the only way you could be a true Jet fan, you've got to embrace the pain of being a Jet fan.
Yeah, but that's cyanide right there. That's not
We
pain.
always
That's death.
see, no matter how things look for the Jets, a true Jet fan, we understand that eventually it will cave in.
It's going to collapse.
That is just part of being a Jet fan. But I'm a diehard. I will never change. I'm always about the gang green. And no matter what happens, no matter how good or bad, I'll always be there for them.
Listen, the greatest short I've ever seen in online presence is the one where 2 years ago somebody made the little video where the Jets opening day season and Aaron Rodgers, Jets 2023, I think it was, whatever, and Aaron Rodgers comes running out of the tunnel leading the team with the flag, the American flag, and then right after that says, "Thank you for watching." That's it. It was over.
Listen, when they picked up Aaron Rodgers, when everybody, the whole Jet community was going nuts, I was part of them. I was one of them too. But then I turned and looked at my wife and I said, "You realize that this will fail."
Right.
And she's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "That's part of being a Jet."
Yeah.
No matter how good things look, eventually
I've been
will
through a
fall
bunch of their
apart.
camps. I've been through a bunch of the Jets camps because
Oh,
they used to have their camp
Cortland.
in Cortland, and I'm a Cortland State grad. I played ball at Cortland State 35 years ago, whatever it was. So we would go down all the time just to watch camp, and my equipment manager, we were tight, so he'd get me on the field, walk around, get to see things, And listen, the money we want to thank the New York Jets organization for dropping millions of dollars into the facility, which really upgrades us to almost a 1AA. We could go. Cortland State could go 1AA right now,
right?
And we won a national championship last year at the Division III level. So
you had to throw that.
I got to throw that in there. Absolutely, they're going to send me my commemorative ring in the mail. It's coming. Are you kidding me?
There you go.
But so I got to see the Jets a lot of years. Wayne Corbett was probably one of my favorite Jets too.
He's a great Jet.
Yeah.
Wayne Corbett.
Yeah, one of my favorite Jets. Absolutely.
Oscar's finest.
Yeah, Oscar's finest.
Absolutely.
Were you? I mean, obviously, you said that you were initially excited about Rodgers, and there's been a lot of speculation on what is going to happen this season, if he's going to play, if he does play, where he's going to end up. Could he end up with the Giants? Do you see him coming back and playing? Now, his stats, if you look at them on paper, were not terrible. They were pretty decent. that they obviously were flawed in a sense that he threw the ball more times than he had in probably the last 10 years, something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But do you think there's something left in the tank, and do you think someone will take a chance on him, whether it's the Steelers, the Giants, Vikings?
I think somebody will, because I think there's a little bit left in the tank. But I think the biggest thing, and I think where the Jets made the mistake is, I don't care who you are as a player. You can't bring a guy in and say, we're going to run his offense. You know
Well,
what
you
I mean?
can. It just won't be
It
successful.
just won't be successful. You got to bring them in just like anybody else and say, hey, this is what we do. We think you could fit in very well in what we do, but this is what we do. What they did, they brought him in and said, hey, we're going to run Aaron's offense because
Here's
Aaron
the
already
thing:
knows.
we'll hatch
It
it.
did feel like he was ownership a little bit during the series. Right?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You can't do that at any level, whether it's the NFL, college, doesn't matter. You can't bring a player in and say, hey, we're going to run his offense.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't work that way. You bring someone in who fits what you do, what your whole team does, and says, "Hey, this is how we see you fitting in." That's football. And then, but the Jets kind of lost view of that. And I understand you got to do what you can do and say what you need to say to get a guy like a Aaron Rodgers to come. But ultimately, it's not going to work. So wherever he goes, I think that's going to be the biggest thing. They got to bring him in and say, "Hey, this is what we do. We think you fit in well, but this is what we do, and
Right.
you got to learn our system just like any other player would." But it's interesting. If I'll tell you what, if he ends up at the Vikings, that's going to be an interesting trajectory between him and the Favre.
Yeah. 100.
That's a crystal ball. I'll give you the crystal ball right now. So he does go to Minnesota.
He's going to go to Egypt first.
The Giants will sign Winston. Jameis Winston will be a
Really?
Giant.
Wow.
Yeah. And Russell Wilson will re-sign with the Steelers for 1 year.
I
think the Steelers would be crazy if they let Russell Wilson go. I mean, who else are you going to take right now?
Yeah, I mean, they brought in Mason Rudolph. Mason Rudolph is not.
Mason Rudolph is a solid backup. He always was, and that's all he'll ever be.
Yep.
No, I 100% agree with that. I never particularly liked Mason Rudolph.
Yeah.
But Aaron Rodgers with the Jets didn't work out. I just hope that, he when I watched him this year, Coach, he looked completely disinterested. He looked like he'd rather be anywhere else than on the football field. Mm-hmm. Like you didn't see any passion, enthusiasm.
It wasn't an energy, that energy or anything that you thought, you're right. It was almost like, because once again, it was like, hey guys, I know what I'm doing. You guys are screwing it up.
Right. And they tried to appease him so much.
Yeah. And that's what I mean.
He was having more fun on the Pat McAfee show. You can see it. He was having more fun on the show than actually playing ball.
How could you not have fun on the Pat McAfee show? What do you think about Aaron Glenn being tasked as the new head coach there? Do you think he's got a shot at success?
I think he does. Aaron, well, number one, he's a Jet, so obviously he's got to be good. But no, he's had a great coaching career, great coaching climb. I think if he brings a little bit of what Campbell is doing at Detroit, maybe bring some of that intensity with him. I think that's the biggest thing. Nothing against Robert Saleh, but I thought he was too mild-mannered for New York.
Yeah, he was really calm, laid back.
I think Aaron needs to bring a little fire, a little intensity. You look at those people that have been truly successful in New York, whether it's the Giants or the Jets, the Parcells, the Coughlin, all those guys, they had something about them that was a little bit, a little intense, that brought some type of intensity to it. I think you got to have that in that environment, just because of what New York is such a different locale than any other city in the NFL. Yeah. You got to be a little bit different to be successful there. I think the Jets definitely need someone who can come in with a little fire, a little intensity, and also someone that can stand up to that damn owner too. You talk about Snyder,
Woody Johnson.
Yeah, he needs to step back and let the football people do what they need to do.
Well, when you let your 18-year-old grandson run the organization a little bit, that's kind of difficult to do well in the pros, right? I mean, although I do have to say, Joe Shane's son when the Giants actually
you got to throw Joe
made
Shane
the
in
correct
there.
picks, and the father did not follow the son's advice.
Yeah, right. Saquon's Madden rating was through the roof.
Yeah.
He deserved the contract for sure.
Well, in the end, yes.
I agree.
The Madden game has some relativity to it. I mean, look what Saquon did.
It was over $2 million. That's
Give
all
him
they had
$2 million.
to pay
The
him
guy's
was
a
$2 million.
The guy
I
is
agree.
beloved by
No
the
doubt.
players, beloved by the fans. He's never caused you any problems. He's given you great years when he's healthy, and all of a sudden, over $2 million, they don't want to pay him.
No, I agree. It was a terrible mistake. And
so why is the guy still the general manager?
Oh, he should have been fired. He should have been fired last year.
No
I was
doubt.
shocked.
The owner walked out. The owner walked out in the meeting. He goes, "Well, if we lose Saquon Barkley,
I'm not going to be sleeping."
Sleeping. Well, he's probably a zombie by now. That's how he's sleeping. He must be stabbing himself in the middle of the night because of the mistake of letting the general manager pull that trigger.
No, I agree. Which brings me to my next question, Coach. What do you think overall the running back position has kind of been devalued in the NFL? It's really gone downhill, and Barkley is now the first running back in NFL history to be paid $20 million in a year. Do you think they have it right with the running back? Do you think they can just draft the 3rd, the 5th round pick and put him back there and get enough production out of him to spend on the receivers and the quarterbacks, or are running backs being undervalued?
I want to believe that they're being undervalued a little bit, but I get it from ownership standpoint because the punishment that running backs take in the NFL, like I said, the NFL is a whole different level. It's a whole different ball. I mean, these are grown men coming at you, and the running backs take that pounding every game. So to keep them healthy, for Saquon, for example, to make it through this year with the amount
It
of
was the
touches
first
that he
time in a
had.
while.
It's been a long time that a running back. So I get it from the ownership standpoint, saying we're putting that much money into these guys and none of them can finish a season. So I get that part of it, but I still believe that when you look at these teams that are winning, even with the Kansas City Chiefs, as good as Mahomes is, the years when they were really, really good, they had a great running game. So I think, football is still football. At the end of the day, to be successful in football, you got to have a great ground attack to allow a quarterback to do all the other things he needs to do. So it's kind of been devalued, but I think having the year that Saquon did is going to kind of change everyone's focus because now everyone's looking back because it got highlighted because his numbers were so big.
Yeah.
But it brought everyone's vision back into focus, the importance of the ground game in the NFL.
Yeah. I think it's brought back the importance of the grinders up front. I mean, just those big bodies that can not only screen. I mean, it's been zone and zone and zone, and the duos and duos. Now it's just listen. We need a guy that can go one on one with somebody and just get some movement up front.
Yeah,
and you see that this year. Philadelphia's line, I mean, did that to a T this year. They were just massive and just moved people. And I think now that's going to be the strategy of more teams in the NFL is to sort of listen. I know we need the pass pro guys, but man, those 1 or 2 guys on the line, we got to plug them with some road graders to be able to make some room for that run game.
Yeah, those inside three guys have got to be some dudes that can, like you said, get some vertical push. Because there's 2 different ways to create seams, and Steve, old offensive line guy like ourselves. Obviously the zone game it creates those seams horizontally, but when you get vertical push and get defenders on different levels and create those vertical seams, now I'm a defensive coach for the last 20-30 years.
Right.
That's the worst thing that can happen on defense is when you get on different levels. And a good running back can get up in there, make the jump cuts and all those different things. Those vertical seams are just as important as those horizontal ones.
And also, Frank had mentioned the personnel difference as well, because so many defenses are geared to stop the spread offense. They don't really have a true 4-3 system out there with that third physical linebacker that can step up and play power. and
But
get downhill and make ISO and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean,
Do you think that affects it as well?
exactly. I think it's all cyclical. I mean, it all affects
Yeah.
a whole start of the game. But also, once again, with Philadelphia, look what they did with their inside two. They had two monsters in there
yeah,
Yeah.
that just dominated the game and took over the game. And you still had some guys on the. I think they showed that you have to have the happy combination of the true edge rushers. I mean, everybody wants the pass rushers to get the sacks and get the stats and all that. But at the end of the day, too, you better have at least one or two dudes inside that are difference makers, some big body that can handle some of those double team gap scheme, inside gap scheme stuff. And I think that's what made Philadelphia's defense so effective were those two inside guys.
yeah,
Yeah,
without a
for
doubt.
sure. I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit. What do you think about UConn football? Do you think that we're gonna be able to get into a conference in the next few years? Because my concern is within the next 5 years, I don't know how we survive successfully as an independent. That's what kind of worries me the most.
Yeah, Steve, I'll tell you. I mean, the biggest. I mean, that was a travesty because we should have been the number one pick in that year with what our basketball programs
I
brought,
know.
and they definitely dropped the ball on that one. They weren't aggressive. I think UConn thought it was a done deal and weren't aggressive enough. I know
Right.
some other side stories that I could tell you, but I'm not going to go into that. I know for a fact how they dropped the ball. But going forward, you're absolutely right. We do. We have to get into a conference. And I'm hoping that Mora is the guy because we need coaches at UConn where UConn is the final destination.
Yes.
Because we made the mistakes the last 3 or 4 coaches we've had. UConn wasn't the final destination. It was a stepping stone, and it was very clear that that's what it was. We need to stop worrying about the name and get people that want to be at UConn because UConn's a great place. And when I hear, well, you can't do this at UConn, you can't do that, I say BS because I was there and I did it.
Yeah.
We did
100%.
we did all those things that people said you couldn't do at UConn. We did it, but we
Yeah.
did it because we had people there that UConn was where they wanted to be. It wasn't to get the next job. That
Exactly.
was the job. So I think those are things that they've got to do. They got to get in the conference and they got to get people there that's the final destination. That's the elite job for them. And if they're not thinking it that way, then it's the wrong people. Because
Yeah, they're not looking ahead.
UConn's a special place. All the stuff that you see going on with basketball, it could be that way with football. Because I remember when we built that stadium. First of all, they thought we were crazy.
They
Right,
did. Very
right.
crazy.
When we recruited you, when we were showing the picture, we didn't even have the stadium. We showed a big picture of it. Hey, you see where those trees are? That's where the press box is going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it can be done. It can be done at UConn. There's nothing wrong with UConn. UConn's not broken. You just need the right people there that want to be there, that aren't telling you stories about this UConn thing. Then as soon as a good offer comes along, they're gone.
Right. Right. No, I think Coach Moore has done an excellent job. My only concern again is, they brought in 30 transfers and signed
Yeah,
12 freshmen.
yeah.
That was my biggest concern.
Well,
That was the one
they
thing.
have to. They're kind of in between a rock
I
and a
know
hard
they have
place
to. Right. Right.
because
Right.
they got to keep up with the Joneses,
Right.
and they got to find a way once again to make their mark now. But I think being an independent is just hamstringing them because
Yeah.
number one, you can't recruit the better players because better players want to play for bowl games and
Exactly.
conference championships and all those different things. Well, you can't say that. You can't say
Exactly.
that we have no conference affiliation. We're not going to get those better bowl games. We're going to be stuck playing in the Myrtle Beach Bowl and all that stuff. It was nothing against the bowl, but a school like UConn shouldn't be playing in a bowl like that.
No.
Right.
And that was the one great thing that Coach Edsel and your staff did. I always felt that you guys developed players. You always knew how to develop players. You would redshirt players, they would spend time in the weight room, and over time, you would see the difference in the success that we had. Because once 2001, 2002 hit, we really didn't fall off
No,
much, other
we
than
had
I think
we had a
2006.
yeah.
Otherwise, we always had winning seasons. We were always in bowl games, and it culminated with the Fiesta Bowl in 2010.
Here's
So,
one
I
thing
mean,
that Fiesta Bowl, Steve. People, we went to that Fiesta Bowl. We had one player on our roster that was a so-called three-star player.
oh my God.
One,
Wow.
one, one player. So we went out, like you said. Back then, the formula was always recruit people that do what we do and that want to be here. That's all we worried about. I remember because I'm a Connecticut guy. I played high
Yes.
school ball in Connecticut. I went to UConn and I recruited Connecticut. And I remember there was a couple kids that had offers like at Notre Dame and Boston College, all these other places, and we didn't offer them. And coaches are calling me and giving me a hard time. How come UConn's not offering, but he's got BC, he's got Notre Dame? I said, well, he doesn't fit what we do. He's a good player,
Yeah.
but he just doesn't fit what we do. Or transversely, I would have coaches call me, hey, how come you're not offering this kid? I'm like, wait a minute. This kid's not getting offered by BC and Miami. I got to play those guys. If he ain't good enough for them, why would he be good enough for us? And that
Exactly.
was that was our attitude. I said, we couldn't go in and just start just taking kids just because, hey, we think they're UConn. They're good enough for UConn, but they're not really good enough for these other people. No, we're playing those other people. But
Exactly.
at the end of the day, it was get guys that can do what we want to do. And then, like you said, we were talking about earlier, we got to bring them in, then we got to develop them. We got to get them bigger,
Yes.
faster, stronger, all those. But we got to teach them the UConn way. And I think
Yes.
guys took it to heart. And I'll never forget, it was a couple years after I left UConn. And a couple of or guys that I coach, I'm not going to say their names, but called me up and they're like, Coach, I'm watching one of the games. And what they noticed, it wasn't what so much was on the field. They were like, there were guys on the sideline with their T-shirts hanging out.
Oh,
Guys had the earrings in. And it was those little things that we used to get on you guys all
never
the
let it
time.
go.
And everybody thought it was crazy. Everyone thought, why are you guys worried so much about where our T-shirt is? Because it's the little things.
Yeah.
And then
No,
I would
well,
tell guys that guys that I coach, like, well, coach, why is it a big deal that our T-shirt listen, will not make one tackle and it won't score one touchdown. But what it will do, it will teach you how to follow direction. You're doing it because my coach told me to do it.
discipline.
That's why. That's why when you play cover 3 and you're supposed to be the post safety, why are you in the post? Because my coach told me to be in the post.
Exactly.
That's how you win football games.
Yeah. Yeah.
Football is not an individual sport. It's a team
Yes.
sport. You do things a certain way because that's what I was taught to do. And if it doesn't work, then it's the coach's job to fix it. But we're losing that. And it was funny, the guys that called me, that's what they know. Those were the things they noticed. The
That's
T-shirts
crazy.
hanging out. The guys having one sock up and one sock down.
Oh,
All the little things that we used to jump on you guys all the
oh,
time.
Randy
Like,
would have had a heart attack. Oh,
oh.
I was the cause of a 5 a.m. workout because I didn't shave one day. I had to be clean shaven, and I didn't shave.
I don't even know how you fit in with that program.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Which let me now, Steve, put you on the spot
Oh,
with
God.
UConn questions. Let me put you on a spot as well here. I'm going to throw one question, 2-part answer, and then I'm going to give the same 2-part answer on the same question
All right.
about Steve. Here's what I want to know about Steve. As being his coach, give me one good aspect of Steve football wise and one bad aspect. Where was he good and where was he bad?
Where was he good? Where was
You're really putting him on the spot.
We're all
here.
adults. We're all adults now. He can say whatever the hell he wants to say. It don't matter no more.
the good part of it, Steve, is easy. He was a great team player. He was, except for that shaving part. But other than that,
He learned. He learned.
he was he was all in as far as a team. The things that we were asking guys to do, the way we were asking guys to practice, to carry themselves around campus, that stuff, he was all in. And that stuff is extremely important when you're trying to build culture. You have to have players that buy into all, not just pieces of the program, but all of the program. So from that aspect, that was a huge part of his game, not just the X's and O's. On the other side of the coin, his feet were about as fast as mine. So we were.
Yes. You can ask Rashad Drayton and Tommy Collins. They have the toes to prove it. They're still mangled.
Really, when they flopped guards, it wasn't to go against the it was to go against the slower guy on the defensive front. That's great. Okay, I'll give you my two real quick. One, team got you're absolutely right about that. One, I knew that Steve at some point was going to be a coach because his knowledge of what we were doing and his thirst for football knowledge overall, that was really big.
Well, I draw a place for you every day too.
Too many. I had to throw them out.
Put them in.
No, I never put them in because first of all, your circles look like eggs.
Yeah,
so there's no way I can validate that point. But bottom line, he really, you could tell that he loved the game. He loved the whole process of learning. He loved implementing those. From start to finish, he wanted to know what was going on and how we were going about it. And I thought that's great. That's going to translate to a coach someday, and it did. Down the road, it was great. The bad thing was more of a field thing. So, and he didn't get my humor in the beginning, and I didn't understand this. So we played our crosstown rival. You know what game I'm talking about. We played our crosstown rival. Wait a minute.
The fugitive?
No. We played our crosstown rival one year, and Steve, he played both ways, but basically he's not a D lineman. He's an O lineman, So we end up losing the game, and then afterwards, I go and break down the film, and then we show the film to the kids the following day. I'm looking at the film, I'm like, the opponent had a offensive guard who had one arm. So, he's missing from the elbow down, he's missing an arm.
Right.
And this son bitch is getting into Steve like every other play. He's getting into him and driving and moving. I'm like, what are you? So in films, I'm like, I keep rewinding. I'm like, Steve, look at this right here. You're getting blocked by the fugitive.
Yeah.
And he's like, he didn't understand at the beginning.
He didn't appreciate it, did he? That's a shame.
Yeah. So I thought your knowledge of my humor was a little slow and lacking.
Coach,
that was the worst
Coach,
thing.
I'm right there with you. The Fugitive is one of my favorite movie shows of all time.
Absolutely. He got blocked by the one-armed guy.
Yep. And to this day,
yeah,
every one of my friends remembers that. So
Richard Kimball. Hey Steve, from now on, I'm calling you Richard Kimball.
Richard Kimball. I love it. Richard Kimball. He brought Uwe up to one of our high school games.
Yeah.
Different year. Yeah. Later on down the road, and they were in the locker room at halftime, and we're losing like 21-0, and we are getting the shit kicked out of us up front. I'm the D coordinator. I'm like, what is going on? And we weren't a talented team, but I mean, it's your crosstown rival.
Right.
You should be spitting blood every year, for this game. So we get in, and we get on the chalkboard. We're all in there, and the head coach is there, and Uwe and Steve are in the back of the room, in the locker room, and I'm like, what's going on over here? And one guy, I'm getting blocked by two guys, coach. Next guy, I'm getting blocked by two guys, but I'm getting blocked by two guys. I go, wait a minute. What do we got? We got 16 guys blocking us on the field. I take my fist and I throw it through the chalkboard and break the whole stand-up chalkboard. And my arm goes through it. So everybody got real quiet when they saw that. And I go, we got to get our shit. And I have no strategy anymore. We just got to get tougher,
Right.
And then turn it to the offensive coordinator. We go running out, and then he's next to Steve. I'm walking out, and he goes, "That was the greatest halftime speech I've ever seen in my life."
That was his favorite story.
Yep,
that was great. Well, Coach Johnson, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate
this is great.
Your expert analysis and input on Moneyline. Only on 97.9 Unity Radio, the best sports talk show in all of Worcester, Massachusetts.
That's what I heard.
In all of New England.
I heard that too today.
Yes.
No
so,
doubt.
Coach Johnson, you're gonna get a lot of views and a lot of questions. So just be prepared for that.
That's
awesome. You were phenomenal.
Anytime, brother.
And everyone in Worcester is going to know that the fugitive story.
They should.
Thank you for telling everyone.
Absolutely.
That. So for Coach Johnson, how are your kids doing? By the way,
they're awesome, man. They're big. They're both. Awesome. I got one of them is 6'7" now.
Are you kidding me?
How old?
Yeah, my youngest. Yeah, and he's studying to be an electrician.
Oh my God! No,
Coach, my kid's a senior in high school. He played basketball up to this year. He quits his senior year because he can't take the coach anymore. It's like PTSD. My son's 6'8", 235, played in 2 state finals the past 3 years and decided to pack it in. He's a fantastic piano player. And he wants to go to school to be something in the medical field.
My youngest, he's 6'7". He only played 1 year of high school basketball, senior year. And then my other one is down in Dallas working for Conference USA.
Oh, really?
That's
awesome.
That's awesome. You know what the great thing is? They're going to be good adults.
That's
Yeah.
it, man. That's all that
Yeah.
matters.
Yeah, Coach. My mother wanted me to say hi. She always
Oh, definitely
your
say
kid.
hello for me.
She asked about your kids. She wanted me to make sure I asked about your kids, and she
Oh,
said hi.
definitely. I appreciate it, man.
All right, for Coach Johnson, former UConn and Maryland coach, now coaching high school football and working for the Department of Defense. And hopefully he gets a tap for Frank Cristiano's cell phone.
All you're going to hear about that
Frank
is soft
Cristiano's
cheese.
cell phone.
I got a restaurant. You're
There
going
you
to hear
go.
about food and food costs and food price. Somebody bitching.
And I am Steve Cully, the best podcast host in the universe. Remember, when life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Take 2 oranges,